Hello YouTube, my name is Azanoth, and today I'll be reading about a little bit about the creation of how the zombie story mode in Call of Duty World at War came to be. Now, I was watching a YouTube video earlier, and I came across this, and he mentioned it, and he read some of it, and he went into detail about it, and I'll make sure to link the video in the description later on and give him credit for it. But for now, hope you guys enjoy. Thank you for watching, and I got started now. Early in the development of Call of Duty World at War, myself and the lead level designer at the time, Jason McCord, were trying to come up with some cool extras for the game. For example, COD 4 had the airplane level at the very end of the game, which arguably IW could have shipped without. At the time, we didn't have anything planned besides competitive co-op, which is a lot like arcade mode in COD 4, just co-opified. We had kicked an idea for an end sequence in COD World at War, where you'd be placed in a bunker which you couldn't leave. To your right would be a German officer screaming at you to get on some machine guns, and to your left would be those machine guns mounted on a window overlooking a beach. It was then the player was supposed to realize that you were on the beach of Normandy from the German perspective, and you had to mow down allies as they came up to the beach. Eventually, towards the end of the credits, as the pace got to be too heavy, and there were so many guys that eventually broke through that beachhead, you'd hear banging on the door to the bunker. A few seconds later, an explosion would rip through the bunker, knock you unconscious, and you'd be on the ground, facing up. An American squad would light up the place, and a badass US soldier would stop over you, slowly aim his gun at you and fire. Fade to black. Finish rolling the credits. Actually, it still sounds pretty cool. Unfortunately, there was a lot of resistance against playing as a German, even though the players get owned at the end, and the Americans still win. Though it could have been a cool cinematic and interactive ending to the game, never was. Later in the project, we added some AI to the level Little Resistance, second level in the game, which had Japanese soldiers looking dazed after a rocket strike on their defensive line. These guys sort of stumbled around, and every time someone saw those animations, they mentioned how they looked like zombies. So months passed, one of our producers, Dan Bunting, comes in and says, "We want to do some extra content for the game. What should we do?" I still really like the concept of being overrun and not really being able to win. One thing in common in most Call of Duty games is the feeling that you're invincible. And when things go wrong, you'll be okay, and then everyone lives to see the next day. I think IW did a good job in twisting that safeness, with two of their levels in particular. The level where you're being led to the streets of Middle Eastern City in the back of a beat-up car and eventually shot in the face by one of the antagonists, and the level where you survive a nuclear explosion and eventually die anyway. Bonus points for making them crucial to the story. Anyway, the first thing I asked Dan was if he ever played any tower defense games. He hadn't, so I explained how the mechanics are pretty simple. Guys commit at the end of each round, you use the points you've accumulated to buy various objects/abilities that will help you survive the next round. Repeat until then. And we could do one fairly easily, because tower defense games have been proved in Flash form time and time again. Doing our own version of tower defense could be a pretty big hit. The model for the extra content I really wanted to follow was out of Geometry Wars. As you might know, Geometry Wars was the game that started as a mini-game in Project Gotham Racing 2. Eventually, the game became so popular that Bizarre split Geometry Wars into a separate game, available on Xbox Live. This model for extra game content is ingenious for two major reasons. One, players get a really fun bit of extra content with high replay value, and two, the development team can use this opportunity to explore and test new ideas and projects. If everything works out, the fans are happy, and you have a prototype for another game. A few hours after talking to Dan about doing the extra content, I was talking to one of our designers, Sean Slayback, about tower defense games, and the proposal to make one. He mentioned a game called The Last Stand, which is a flash game where you play as a survivor fighting off zombies. Zombies run towards you and start tearing a large barricade that is protecting your area. If they break through, you're pretty much toast. So you move around in your little section of the screen, shooting various guns to try and keep them from breaking in. The rules are pretty standard for a tower defense game, but with some cool twists. After every round, you get some points which you can spend on building back to your barricade, looking for survivors, and looking for new weapons. So depending on how you play, you might choose to get a new weapon, or more people to help you defend, or simply build up your defenses. So I played a few rounds and had a huge epiphany. Zombie Nazis, I thought to myself. You could do a lot of the same stuff here, but make more interactive and more intense in the first person. What you could, what you could do, what you could actually buy barricades in real time. What if you could actually find and buy weapons in the level? What if you could unlock new areas that change the strategy of the game and flow of the enemies? Plus, you could play in co-op. You have a zombie-like animations already, the Dazed guys. It's a no-brainer prototype. The engine supported all these ideas, and I could immediately see how they could be implemented. I immediately rushed over to Dan's office. Hey, so I have this idea. I think it's gonna be awesome. Let's do a tower defense game where zombies are attacking your building you're holed up in. You could tell he wasn't sold on the idea. I gave him my pitch anyway, but he wasn't terribly impressed, even after showing him The Last Stand. He told me we wouldn't have enough time to make it. Doing such a game mode would require all our new assets. It would be a huge risk. The mode didn't fit the theme of the game at all, plus it would be too campy. However, when I started pitching the idea to the others on the team, they seemed to love it. Especially some of the guys that had played a lot of Warcraft or Starcraft and knew a lot about tower defense games. Those Blizzard games were where the tower defense craze got really popular. I sat on it for a while. Later, I learned that Dan had grabbed a scripter and a programmer to implement his concept of what a tower defense game should be. It was named Bunker Defense, and basically included sections of levels from a single-player campaign. As you ran through the levels, guys would spawn in waves. Eventually, you'd encounter a flame guy and maybe some dogs. The problem, though, was that it was missing all the fundamentals of what makes a good tower defense game. You need to be able to buy stuff, rebuild, change your strategies, and most of all, you have to defend. In Bunker Defense, you're running and progressing through the level. In tower defense games, you're defending a particular area and you need to strategize. Now that is all for today. If you get this video to 50 likes, and just 50 likes, I will produce the next part of the video in what I hope to be a 3 or 4 part series. Thank you, and make sure to like, favorite, subscribe if you have not already, and I'll talk to you later. Peace off.